Coming up, the new tower at Disney's Swan and Dolphin officially has a name. The Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster has its first piece of track installed. We share some unpopular Disney opinions. And we give our review of Disney's Pop Century Resort. All that and more on this episode of WDW Opinion. Cue the music.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
This is the podcast where two friends, Connor,
you are a child's plaything,
and Hank,
you are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity,
share their opinions, tips, and stories about anything and everything at Walt Disney World.
Trust me, what could go wrong?
Get ready, because this is WDW Opinion.
We're in the tower. We are ready for takeoff.
Hello and welcome to episode number 21 of WDW Opinion, the podcast where friends talk Disney. We share our Disney World opinions, and then you share yours. Let us know what your Disney World opinions are by following us on social media. We are at WDW Opinion. And visit WDWOpinion.com to check out our blog posts on all things Disney and to see what we're up to in between episodes. There you can also get a free Disney trip planning checklist when you sign up for our weekly email newsletter. I'm your host, Connor Brown, and I'm joined by my co-host and Disney partner in crime, Mr. Hank Molsky. Hank, there are some pretty sweet Cyber Monday deals out there this past week. So what'd you get me for Christmas?
Stitch's Great
No.
Escape T-shirt.
No.
Fire sale.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, that's the problem with that is there were no
sale.
Black Friday sales on that or Cyber Monday. It's just always on sale.
Yeah, just close out. Get rid of, empty the stock. Actually, I might be stealing that from some impoverished nation because they have definitely shipped all those boxes out.
Like whenever they ship the runner-up from the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Along with Stitch's Great Escape, opening this spring.
There's a lot of underprivileged youths wearing New England Patriots Super Bowl championship jerseys from the last year.
And a lot not over the past decade.
I will say this much about Cyber Monday. I don't think I get more emails on a single day than
Oh my God, you're right. It was a bloodbath in the promotions folder in Google.
But it's nice because you realize, I'm still on that mailing list. Unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe.
Thanks, pal.
That's the real purge. None of this killing people crap. It's Cyber Monday. Unsubscribe purge.
I like that. Yeah, it's a great day to unsubscribe. Not from this podcast, though.
Not from this podcast, though. Not from this podcast. Let's get off unsubscribe talk, shall we? It's time for News to Opinion. This is our weekly segment where we each pick a recent Disney news story to discuss and share our thoughts and opinions on. My news story of the week is that the new tower at Disney's Swan and Dolphin officially has a name. This is coming from WDWNewsToday.com. An official announcement was made by Marriott International, which owns and operates the Swan and Dolphin hotels. And according to plans revealed Tuesday, this new project will be called The Cove. Ooh, swanky. The Cove will be an additional tower at the Swan and Dolphin and will include 349 rooms. When it's complete, Marriott will have 2,600 rooms between the Swan, Dolphin, and Cove hotels. The hotel will be across the street from the Swan and Dolphin on Epcot Resorts Boulevard near the Fantasia Garden Miniature Golf Course. The Cove will include a rooftop venue for weddings or VIP groups to rent out. Like the Swan and Dolphin hotels, the Cove will have walking access to Epcot, Hollywood Studios, the Boardwalk, and Yacht and Beach Club resorts. And additionally, the Cove will be a group-oriented and event or convention-focused hotel, which will allow many groups that have become too large for the other hotels in the past to now be accommodated. I will say this much about the Swan and Dolphin. I think it's a very underrated option that people don't necessarily look at when they're booking a place. I mean, I walked in there not the last time I was there, the time before that, walked into both of them because I hadn't been in there a while. They're both absolutely gorgeous hotels.
Yeah.
They have some great dining options. Like I said, access to the boardwalk, yacht and beach club, walking to Epcot and Hollywood Studios, boat access with the friendship boats, and the big appeal for many, which I think some people don't realize, is it is a Marriott hotel.
Right,
so
that's the biggest thing.
You can use your points there. That was something working at Yacht and Beach Club, I always faced. They always said, "And are you guys affiliated with anyone?" And I said, "No, we're Disney. You can't use any of your points here." So it's definitely, it's good for that, and adding more hotels there, I think will just be a bigger advantage for people.
Yeah, I think you really truncated your story there of, are my points good here? Because you said it would usually go, "Oh, I'm a Hilton Rewards member. Are my points good here?" "No, sir. Sorry, we're a Disney hotel." "Oh, okay. What about Starwood?" You're like,
No,
sir.
No. Disney owns it.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay, so I had not read that news story prior to this moment now. So here's my reaction. I'll take you inside my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I hear the name. I'm like, oh, that's creative. I like that. That matches. Oh my God, it's the name of the movie where they slaughter all the dolphins.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, that. I don't know. At first, I liked it. My knee-jerk reaction was like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty creative." And then I go, "Wait a second."
You know what is interesting? I think it's going to be the only one that's not actually on the water. Yeah, there's no actual.
Oh, that's even more twisted since they take all the dolphins out.
Those sick freaks. Now it also says that it'll be overflow for those other two resorts. They're a big convention space. The Swan and Dolphin have a gigantic convention center attached to it. But I will say, I wonder if this will have its own lobby. Like, there's a lobby and a check-in for the Dolphin. There's a lobby and the check-in for the Swan. So if it's like you're booking a room at the Cove, just like you're booking a room at the Dolphin or the Swan. Because they used to be independent. They used to be, one was a Starwood, one was a Marriott or something. But
so I'm real unfamiliar with the layout. They're building these on the tennis courts. RIP. How far away are the tennis courts from the rest of it?
It's directly across the street. So it's across Epcot Resorts Boulevard. So it's you'll have to walk fully across the street and then down a little
separate
path.
check-in lobby.
Yeah, down a little path to get to the walkway where you can attach what that attaches to, like the boardwalk.
Yeah, so that sounds like a separate lobby scenario.
Yeah, and when I say that this is, walking, you can walk to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. That's already a far walk if you're at like Yacht Club or Boardwalk to Epcot, or kind of Epcot, especially at Hollywood Studios. This is like super far because that's a good distance to get to the Swan, and then it's a good little distance to get to the main path as well.
It is like, hang on, I can't draw a good picture in my head. It feels like it's like right in the middle of Hollywood Studios and Epcot almost. Or not right in the middle. It's like an equidistant walk.
Yeah, because the way that...
it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, the way that Epcot Resorts Boulevard works is it's basically a U that connects to the main street. Mm-hmm. So on one entrance, that's where Hollywood Studios is. And then Epcot is on the backside of all the resorts and stuff. So it pretty much is, equidistant, I would say, as the crow flies. Not as you have to walk, but
yeah.
Well, look forward to that. I don't think there is an opening date as of yet, but we'll keep you filled in as we see more information. Hank, what's your news story of the week?
Yeah, slow news week. We named a resort, and the launch track first piece was installed for the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster.
Interesting.
Sometime either today or yesterday, as reported by WDW News today. The launch track that will send guests up into the Gravity Building for the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster at Epcot has been installed. This is the first piece of track that has been installed for the attraction, which will open sometime in 2021. Guests will be launched out of the original Universe of Energy Pavilion, no solar panels, into the new Gravity Building while seated in the roller coaster cars. It's interesting if you look at this. I mean, this building is massive. We've talked about this many, many times. The Gravity Building that they're calling it is just huge. And so they're already installing track to get in there, and they have not even finished putting up the vanishing walls on the outside. Is that what they're called? The walls that vanish into the sky? Vanishing paint?
Yeah, you could call it that. I mean, it's just basically painted like, the blue sky.
Yeah. And the tree line. Don't forget. That's critical element as it. So on the outside of this building, this vanishing wall effect, it's not fully completed yet. But I think they use this a lot out in LA in like film studios.
Yeah.
Not so. There's not. Are there any good examples on Disney property right now?
The best example is the Soarin' show building at Epcot.
Yes.
You can see it's completely blue, sky blue, and they've painted some clouds on it.
Yes, and then like when it gets down closer to the tree line, they actually use some shades of green.
Gotcha.
To really make it disappear. And that's what's up right now. It's like a couple layers of green on the Gravity Building. And then you can see they're starting to panel in that light blue. Cool effect. I mean, it's obvious, especially with the size of this thing, that Disney wants that thing to just vanish when Spaceship Earth is standing right next to it. Too iconic. So, I mean, yeah, they're working. Connor and I have gone back and forth on our levels of excitement for this. I currently rest at excited. I hope that they're able to get the Guardians cast on board without James Gunn. Optimistic about the track and thinking the storytelling elements sound very cool, but boy, they got to tell a good story. So we'll see.
I'm definitely still excited for it, but I'm also in Hank's camp of, cautiously optimistic. I think this is going to be. They've already said the biggest, longest indoor roller coaster ever. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to take cues from Escape from Gringotts at Diagon Alley and Universal Studios Florida, in the sense that it's going to be part roller coaster, part, kind of dark ride. But I think there's going to be a lot more dark ride elements. Like you're stopping.
Almost like the Mummy a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But because of that, because it's not, going to be just a rock and roller coaster where there's facades and things like that, there's going to be different story points along the way that are going to need some, shot for shot live action makes.
And don't give me that Hogwarts Express experience. I don't want to see this fake Hermione Granger pressing her face against the glass.
I could do a better fake Hermione.
That one is bad.
Hermione. Honestly, Ron, honestly.
Because she's not in Escape from Gringotts, is she?
She is. That's the weird thing.
Okay, I don't understand that at all. So whatever.
Unless
it must have been a school thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they hide her pretty well. If you notice, she's always like sitting like far off camera.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I think she's in that too. But like, if they did trick us, they did a much better job than the Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, and they got Ray Fiennes and all the whole cast and crew.
Helena Bonham Carter. But it's also like when you're in the Hogwarts Express, I've never sat in there with a group of other people, because you tend to sit with other people who haven't been like, oh, well, guess she didn't sign on for it. Every single person points it out.
Right.
It's so bad. So hopefully we don't have that situation on our hands when the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster opens. Correct. So we have a new hotel coming to Swan and Dolphin, the Cove, and we have a fresh piece of track laid. Guardians of the Galaxy. Big news week. Big news week. We all have our favorite Disney park, Disney attractions, and Disney restaurants. And they are our favorite for a plethora of reasons. But then there are the things we are supposed to like or supposed to hate because the vast majority of the Disney fan community thinks that way. Well, in this segment, we share our unpopular Disney opinions in a safe, welcoming, judge-free space. Psych, we're going to probably judge each other so hard, but we'll have fun doing it. So, Hank, what's your unpopular Disney opinion this week? And let's focus on Epcot attractions, shall we?
Oh, Connor, I know you know this about me. So I am already you've prepped, you've had practice in judgment on this one. Mm-hmm. I was looking around Epcot a little bit in my head earlier today, thinking about this. There's a lot of popular opinions that float around, whether it's positive or negative. I think there's a lot of shared sentiment around this park. Not sure why. However, I've got one that I know boils your blood, probably the blood of a few others. Literally boils your blood as you enter Mission Space Orange. I love it. And I love it under the influence as well.
I've never done Mission Space Orange, but I know you're a lunatic for not only enjoying it like that, but enjoying it under the influence of alcohol. I think you, sir, are writing checks your body cannot cash.
Yeah, listen. I'm a big fan of Orange. I like this is the original experience. No, I mean that was what it had. That was the only option you had for several years, correct?
I don't think they made it. Yes, yeah, that was the only option you had, and
it wasn't called Orange. It was just called Mission Space.
It was just called Mission Space, and then they split it in half: green, orange. When they did the split, I don't think they made the orange any more intense than it already was.
No. But yeah, I'm a fan of Orange. I know it has grown. I feel like it has grown more unpopular as time's gone by. I don't know.
I think it was...
Or is the ride just growing more unpopular over time?
I think that's it. I think what it is it's... I can't say, obviously, because I've never done it. I've only done green, and I'm a good little boy when I'm on green. I'm very content. But I think it's just getting older, So it might be those very, very thrilling rides, as they wear, can, inflict more pain on people.
It'd be interesting to see. So I have this thought though. I can't remember if we've talked about it on the show or not, but the way that and it may be anecdotal, that Soarin's popularity or attractiveness has died down a little bit after the opening of Flight of Passage, especially for first-time visitors. For diehards, it doesn't make a difference. For season pass holders, that type of thing, annual pass holders. But Mission Space has already kind of started to die out on the popularity scale. You never wait more than an hour. Knock on wood. Mm-hmm. Merry Christmas. You'll wait longer then. But it'll be interesting to see how bad or how disinterested people get when the Millennium Falcon ride opens up and you're working with 4K, probably 3D, state-of-the-art, driving the Millennium Falcon with decisions, with 6 people, in a place that's not in a compact room, and then all that's left is Mission Space. So, Mission Space, I feel like, will be extremely unappealing. Like, what was the point of going on that when I could do the Millennium Falcon ride?
It's interesting because why do some things like a Space Mountain, last, have this kind of longevity? It was one of the first roller coasters, the oldest steel tubular roller coaster in the state of Florida, I think. Yeah. So, and before that, it was only the Matterhorn was like the first steel roller coaster ever. Mm-hmm. Steel tubular roller coaster ever. So it's kind of those. Why is that still? How do you reach a level of nostalgia when it's a ride that was based on technology, things like that?
I sense here, and I still want to talk about it a little bit now, but I sense an opportunity for a deeper dive here, because what you've got me thinking about on a future episode is the value and discussion between, and not just throwing a blanket statement, screens stink, screens are bad, I don't want screens on my rides, but a discussion about what the pros and cons are of having screen-based rides. Mm-hmm. The rides that you just listed off, they're not technology heavy, they're practical effects. If you're talking in movie terms or cinematic terms, they're practical effects rides. And the rides that I just talked about with Soarin', Flight of Passage, Millennium Falcon, we don't know enough about the Millennium Falcon ride yet though, and Mission Space, they're screen-based rides. And you sense the dating in a shorter time span there. Or it has to do with the implementation of technology. There's a lot of different things that weigh in on that. But there's something about just the other day watching Harry Potter, watching the first couple movies. You watch those and you're like, damn, they were actually like out in the field in Scotland there. They built the Great Hall, or they built the Chamber of Secrets. They built these giant practical effect sets, and it was something special. It's something that you don't quite sense, that like grandeur that you get when you're watching the Avengers, which I love.
Yeah.
Infinity War and that type of thing. You just don't get that type of feel. It's a different shot type of movie. And it's like, how well will, Avengers 3 hold up in 10 years versus something like Harry Potter 1 and 2? It's yet to be seen, but I sense that you could have those similar discussions, just the way that like these, when you're talking about these rides.
I think we have 2 discussions for later episodes, the pros and cons of screen attractions, and maybe we can also have a discussion of what makes a ride nostalgic versus what doesn't.
Yeah, I like that too.
And I think, what Hank's saying is it a technology thing? Is it a story thing? It's just, I think it would just be a good conversation overall.
Yeah, I like that.
But I do want to ask you one other question. Why is it that you enjoy going on it a little,
Yeah,
after a few brews?
It's something about Epcot. I'm not saying I do enjoy imbibing at Epcot. I'm not saying I'm not going to have a good time at Epcot unless I'm having many drinks. But it's just kind of one of those things. I've gone on it a couple times. One time when we were down there for the bachelor party, and it is just when you're locked in a box with like 4 other people when you've had a few, and it's just this old nostalgic kind of feeling technology, so silly, so stupid. And it's like a laugh box. You're having a great time with your pals. It's very funny. It's very confined. You feel like you can let go a little bit and like actually be raucous because you're the only 4 people that can hear each other. Which is nice.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with, because it's a closed, encapsulated area where only 4 people can be. If all other 3 people in there with you, you can totally crank it up a little and have some fun. That was like kind of like when we've done it when we go on Dinosaur and we requested a ride, a vehicle to ourselves.
Well, we requested that because there was no one else there, folks.
No one else there.
We were being kind.
That was fun.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
I think that is an interesting unpopular opinion, my friend.
There we go.
Now, I could have a couple. I could say things like, Oh Canada in the Canada Pavilion, I think is incredible. But I don't think enough people don't like that. I just don't think enough people know about that. I could say Soarin' sucks right now, and it does suck. I could say those 2 things, but I won't. I won't use those as my unpopular opinions, even though I do believe them. What I will say, and I think this will get a lot of people pissed off for whatever reason.
Oh, no.
I think Frozen Ever After. No. I think it's awesome.
Okay, thank God.
I think it's really awesome. And I know we're in the same camp, Hank and I.
I loved it, man.
Especially if you go on Twitter, Disney Twitter, which I don't recommend anyone doing. It's a lot of people
don't read the comments,
upset about everything, but people will eviscerate it and things like that.
Yeah, I forgot about that negative sentiment, especially when they cut the ribbon on that thing.
Oh yeah,
Norway Pavilion. No,
I think
ruined.
You can have a bigger discussion about, does it belong there? Is this right? Should there be intellectual properties in the World Showcase and things like that? I think that's a discussion for a different day. All I know is this: when I want to go on an attraction, I want to be entertained. It can be all sorts of different entertainment. It can be being entertained through history, like Spaceship Earth. It can be entertained through science and new discoveries on living with the land. It could be, thrilling when I go on Test Track. All I know about Frozen is I'm entertained from start to finish. I don't know if I learn a whole lot about Norwegian culture, but I know in the queue, there's plenty to look at. It's great. Frozen Okens, that's always cool to see. When I'm on the ride, it's awesome. The animatronics are great. The story is great. The ride itself is very entertaining, and that's why I like it. I think it's
Hey, I'm totally in your boat or in your camp on this one.
in my boat. It's a boat attraction.
It's a boat attraction. Man, I just rode that for the first time on our last trip. I'd never been on it just because and I feel like this is another thing that a lot of people, if you're a family, it is a no-brainer for me right now after going there. Hang on, I got to collect my thoughts because I'm so excited. So we've talked about tiered systems, how Epcot's got the tiered ticketing system. So you basically have to choose between Frozen, Test Track, and Soarin' when you're in the park. You got to pick one fast pass in that tier level. Hopefully Guardians helps level that out somehow when that opens out. Maybe
Ratatouille should as well.
Oh yeah, Ratatouille, good. Maybe you'll get 2 from the 5 that we just named. I would always skip Frozen and either go Test Track or Soarin'. And that was a no-brainer. It was like, oh, it's a kid's ride. The wait's always too long. I'm never going to go on that thing. Finally went as the park was closing, just waited out the line, wanted to close out the night there. My sister-in-law was on the trip with us, really wanted to see the Frozen characters. If you are skeptical about the ride, go out there and do that. Especially, if you don't have kids and you're just listening to these 2 crazy 20-year-old men talk about Disney parks. Go and ride that. It is so cinematic, so well done. The effects are awesome. The animatronics are cool. When I have a family now down the line, I'm saying that is the fast pass that I would use every single trip.
Oh, yeah.
Over Test Track and Soarin' right now.
Oh, yeah.
Both those feeling a little dated. This one, state of the art, awesome show. The kids would love it. In. Totally agree, Connor.
And for all the people who are upset that Maelstrom left, and oh, woe is me, Maelstrom's gone, why didn't you actually ride the ride?
Yeah, right.
Because that bad boy you could walk on every single day. Here, it still has an hour and a half wait. How many years in? So that's the testament. That's what Disney's looking for. Yep. You want to be entertained, that's why you go to the theme parks.
Yes.
So there you go. 2 men who love Frozen.
That's unpopular.
That's definitely unpopular. With over 20 unique resort hotels, Disney World offers something for everyone when it comes to lodging. For those that go to the Orlando resort often, staying in different hotels is part of the fun. A few weeks ago, Hank and I had the opportunity to stay at the Pop Century Resort. And last week, we took you on a walking tour of the grounds. Well, this week, we are giving you our full review of the property. We will be discussing the rooms, ambiance, and overall amenities of the resort. Hopefully this will help give you a better idea of it if you want to give this resort a shot next time you're there. It's all about the pop this week on WDW Opinion. So Hank, you're actually the resident pop expert since you've stayed there twice now this year, haven't you?
Yeah, 2 times in 1 year. Now I'm a pop fan.
You're a pop guy.
Yeah.
So overall, you give it higher marks, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to like about the Pop Century, and I think that'll probably be a little bit of a theme of the rest of our discussion. There's a lot to like about what's going on there. Background, and I don't think this is any secret to people that listen to this podcast, is there's kind of this weird, until you go there, it's definitely weird, this weird kind of like, not cult, but like family feeling around the Pop, that people are like, oh, those are my people. Those are the Pop people. You guys stay at Pop? I'm like, yeah, I love the Pop. It's got like just like that following that people stick around with, Do you see that online and in chat boards and Twitter and stuff?
I would say there's a couple resorts on Disney property that hold that vibe.
Yeah.
This is our, quote unquote home resort. I mean, you could say that about any of the DVCs, but a place like Old Key West is very much of that vibe. Mm-hmm. People go there every single year, have been going there for 20 years. Pop is like that. People come back every single year. Got to stay at the Pop. We're Pop people. The other one I think is Fort Wilderness. cabins and campgrounds.
Of course.
You know, people go there every year, probably around the same week. So that's those three, I think, definitely have a big affinity towards people, which I think is awesome. It's something you don't, really see at the other values as much as you do here. But if you listen to our podcast last week, episode 20, WDWopinion.com/episode 2020, you'll hear Hank and I mention how the windows are decorated at a lot of these places. And it's saying, celebrating this person's birthday or celebrating an anniversary. It's kind of like, hey, we're here. We want to let you know why we're here. If you see us, talk to us. It's sharing what you're celebrating there with your Pop family.
Yeah, and here we are now after a couple nights stay for a few nights. This most recent time, and now second time this year for me. I feel like I've really grown to not only know the resort grounds pretty well, and we talked about the maze of the paths through there.
Yeah.
You can still get turned around pretty easy, as well as it. You're like, oh shoot, we're not walking towards the lobby anymore, are we?
Where are we going?
But I've also grown to quite fond of it, especially for the class that it's in. Talked a little bit about how it's soon to be exiting that true value status, but that's okay. I think it's kind of earned its right to jump up a few rungs on the ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a value resort. Hank and I have talked about how we think there's actually 3 categories of values nowadays. You have the All-Stars, then you have Pop Century, and then you have Art of Animation. Now, they're all considered to be in the value resort, but if you look at pricing and things like that, it kind of goes in that general kind of area. Pop is a little bit more expensive than the All-Stars, and Art of Animation is definitely more expensive than all 3 of those. But I think it's worth it. I mean, right now you can get rooms starting at $116 a night. That's obviously at some, unusual time throughout the year. That's just according to Disney's website. But if I look up a date, like let's pick a random date in February, the 7th through the, let's just say the 9th, and we look for a room on Pop, it comes out to around $156 a night. Oh, no, it doesn't. It comes out to around $135 a night.
All right.
So nothing too crazy. Definitely more expensive than some other locations off Disney property, but I think it is all about the location. It's considered to be in the Wide World of Sports area, which isn't really an area at all.
No.
Unless you're doing things at Wide World of Sports for whatever reason. But the closest theme park is technically Hollywood Studios as the bird flies in. Location-wise, it's really not that far away.
Yeah, Disney World now, I mean, it would have been different, without Animal Kingdom in the mix. But you're kind of nestled right in the middle of everything. You don't feel too terribly far away now that they tossed Animal Kingdom,
right
way out in the boonies.
Exactly.
And now that it's becoming more of a, more than half a day park, we can debate however long you want to stay there. But yeah, definitely a full day park if you consider Pandora day and night now. That it makes sense that you don't want to be too far away from that if you've got a park hopper or an annual pass. I don't know if you're going to have an annual pass, you're going to want to stay at the Pop, but discussion for a different day.
Hey, I stayed at the Pop with an annual pass.
There you go.
That's where you get the best deals, man. That's where you get the best deals. So what does a value mean? A value basically means you're going to be a little bit further away from the theme parks, for one. You're not necessarily going to have a sit-down restaurant at any of them. They're going to be more, I say motel style, but I don't actually mean that. It just means you enter from the outside to get into your actual hotel room. Your actual main door to get in opens to the outside, right?
Yes.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. You pretty much, with a value, only have one method of transportation for now, right? Now it's the buses. There's only
one. We
one.
talked a lot about that.
There's only one bus stop for this area. My favorite feature about what distinguishes a value from a moderate. When it comes to pools, there are no slides at a value resort.
Yeah, that
But
is true.
there are slides at a moderate resort.
You
which
know,
I
there's
think is
also
funny.
inflatable pool balls that you can get at the All-Star Sports that are at none of the others.
Well, there you go. So that puts that value in a whole nother category
A
into
whole
itself.
other class.
You
Balls
can
and
blow,
pool.
blow up 10-cent beach balls.
Big difference, man.
But if you have ever stayed at the All-Star resorts, this hotel is very much laid out in the same manner. Main pool, dining, and check-in area surrounded by, 4-level modular framed buildings. And here they actually have 10 separate buildings. As the name of the resort implies, Pop Century, it's themed around decades in the previous century. So there's 3 50s themed buildings, 2 60 themed buildings, 2 70 themed buildings, 2 80 themed buildings, and 1 90s themed buildings.
Very loosely on themes for the buildings. It means a giant steel figure out front.
So in the 50s, the theme is bowling, which fits in perfectly because they have their own pool there too, called the bowling,
right.
bowling pool. It's shaped like a bowling pin. It's not the main one, but those 3 buildings in the 50s, bowling themed, and they're nestled around a bowling pin themed swimming pool. The 60s are front and center, kind of in the back. As you walk out the back of check-in, you see the Hippy Dippy pool, which is the biggest pool on property, and flanking it on both sides is the 60s building. That's themed to like groovy, flower power, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The 70s is themed to, they had, what did they have? Like 8 tracks, a lot of music, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The 80s and the 90s are all together and 3 separate buildings, and they share the computer pool. So it's cool. It's actually a square pool, and in front of it, it looks like there's a keyboard that you could type on, which of course you can't.
No, of course not.
But these 10 buildings make up 2,880 rooms, making it actually the second largest hotel
Did not know that.
in the entire state of Florida.
Whoa, yeah. I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say on property. Is
No.
there a bigger one on property?
There is. Caribbean Beach is bigger.
And that would be number 1 in the state then.
There you go. So an interesting thing that Hank and I were talking about this resort on our walk around last week is originally when it was opening, it was going to have a secondary area across Hourglass Lake where this resort is nestled. It was going to open at the same time in 2003, but due to the attacks on September 11th, the secondary portion of it actually remained unused for almost a decade. And then they announced that Art of Animation was coming, and it became its own kind of resort unto itself for sure. This is actually very interesting. What you see now on Pop Century is called the classic years. So the classic years are 50s through the 90s. On the other side of the lake, it was going to be called legendary years, and it was going to have the decades, 1900 through the 1940s. So it was going to have its own check-in area. It was basically going to be like its own building, kind of like how Port Orleans is. There's French Quarter, and then there's Riverside.
Talked about that a little bit, right? Did we not?
We talked about it a little, mostly how one building was actually built and it just wasn't ever completed. And so when Art of Animation came, they took that over and made it their own. What I think is cool is...
That was a great comparison, though, Connor. That's a good way to frame it up for people that we didn't... I know we didn't say that last week, is that it does have that feel like if you're trying to go like, oh, why would they do that? It's like, oh, it's the exact same way that they did Riverside and Port Orleans.
Right. So, or eventually they brought both of those under the same
Correct.
kind of brand,
Yeah.
right? Port Orleans Riverside, Port Orleans French Quarter. This it would be different just because it's right across the lake from each other. You can see it. It would have been identical in many ways. one thing is cool. There's a bridge that you can walk across that connects Pop Century to Art of Animation. That's where the Skyliner will be coming in, the load and unload area. That bridge is actually called the Generation Gap Bridge. So when they were going to have the 1900s through 1940s on one side, the 50s through the 90s on the other, you were going to cross Generation Gap to get to the other side.
Very clever naming from the Disney folks there.
Too bad it didn't work out.
Yeah. Emotional Whirlwind is still another good one for the swings out at...
I do like that one.
That is pretty good.
I do
At
like
California Adventure, they named the Inside Out Swings ride the Emotional Whirlwind. I did like the other name. I'm trying to remember. Jim Hill talked about the other name that got scrapped. It was. We'll think of it.
The Mood Swings?
Yes, the Mood Swings.
Something like that.
Drawing room floor.
It's cut. So, Hank, what are your initial thoughts about like the main lobby area? I would say this is kind of, the central hub of everything. So this is where you go to check in. This is where the Magical Express will drop you off. Everything Pop is the store where you can get sundries as well as the quick service cafeteria. And then outside, it's also the main bus area where you take transportation to the parks, Disney Springs, etc.
Library Museum. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes when you go to that big public library in your city or your town, they've got these weird type of like museum setups or like, a little bit of artifacts from the local area. Or, hey, this was the mayor's gavel in 1890 that we're going to put in a box over here that no one's ever going to look at. Also, you can stand in the lines over here behind and get check out your books. Feel a little bit that way about the Pop Century lobby. You can wait in line over here, or you can sit by Dad over by the yo-yo from 1970.
Yeah, the Duncan yo-yo from 1970 in a glass box. It is interesting, what they choose to display versus, I guess, what they don't. I mean, it is an interesting thing to walk into, especially off the Magical Express. Something I don't think you'd see in too many other Disney resort hotels, but it is cool. Definitely a hop-in area. I can say, during chow times, breakfast, kind of sort of at lunch, but then definitely around dinner time, these areas get very, very popular, and it doesn't help.
So when you exit I'm thinking very much of like the check-in area of the lobby.
Yeah.
When you exit out into that like the 4-point center, and you've got the big glass windows into the gift shop, which is very cool. The way that opens up into the food court area, big fan of that. When you exit the library, and then the arcade, man, is that next on our list to talk about? That arcade is hopping.
Yeah, I think it helps just because let's say you are doing a pool day, it's right next to the pool, so the kids can run to the arcade, and it's gigantic. And Hank, you were saying last week, I mean, it wasn't like they just haven't bought anything in a decade. It seems like all new games.
Oh yeah. Well, as far as the arcades that I've been in on property, I mean, it's got to be the biggest. I don't know. I can't think of a bigger one.
Those ones definitely, the values definitely tend to have big arcades, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's probably...
They're compensating for something.
Close to the biggest, if not the biggest.
Yeah.
I will say this about the bus area. Same kind of thing. During the busy times, early in the morning, maybe kind of towards a few hours before park close, these things can get so freaking packed because there's only one bus stop for all, what did I say, 2,880 rooms. Those double backs, those switchbacks can get, unruly, and you get a line of like 5 ECVs, wheelchairs there. That's not going to help anyone's cause.
Yeah, we saw that Magic Kingdom line pretty deep a couple times when we walked by. Yeah, it was
deep. I think
made you shudder a little bit.
One of the things I will never understand is why can't they just put a covered area above it?
I was just going to say that too. I feel like so many of the other resorts have the option to be like a little more covered, but man, they make you roast if you want to wait in line.
In the grand scheme of things, that's not going to be... That's neither a selling point nor a non-selling point, right? So no one's going to say, oh, well, their bus stops here aren't covered. We shouldn't stay there, right? we should spend more money and stay at Coronado or something like that.
No. Yeah,
now, it is a
never
selling point at Coronado. There's 9 bus stops, or however many bus stops there are. There's 5 bus stops. So that's a selling point. But the fact that it's just out in the, hot Florida concrete, it doesn't help anyone. I think it's just silly. In the grand scheme of things, slap a hanger over that. It can't cost you that much.
Yeah, I was trying to think about like times of the day that we typically recommend for like longer family trips. Obviously, we're always going to be in the camp that we recommend you to get out earlier in the morning where it's not a problem. But if you're trying to do like a late afternoon arrival after that mid-afternoon rush, I can imagine it gets pretty hot out there waiting in the month of July around 4 or 5 o'clock if you want to go to a late afternoon park. I mean, that sounds pretty miserable.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
That's tough.
We kind of mentioned all the pools before. Hippy Dippy Pool, the main one. Bowling pool in the 50s. Computer pool in the 80s and 90s. Love the theming of all of these. Definitely sprawling. But, again, they can get busy during peak times.
Yeah, and I just a quick thought about that too. If you're staying at a value, you're not paying for the pool. I almost would say just not even bother. I mean, like that at least for me, and that's the way that I think you maybe should orient yourself. If you're gonna pay to be at a value, don't waste your time at the pool. And that's not a criticism. That's just using your dollar wisely. Either pay more and get a better pool experience, because that's a part of your trip that you want, which you should do if you're a family. Stay at Wilderness Lodge or Polynesian or Boardwalk or Beach Club. Stay at an awesome pool. But if you want a pool experience, I would pass on these value pools.
This is kind of the perfect area of, if you're dedicating one day to be a pool day, I think this can get the job done for sure. But if it's something where your kids love the pool and you're going to be going in the pool every single day, it might get a little boring after a couple days there. And again, it's just all about planning. It's picking the right times to go to these pools, knowing that they're probably going to get busy because there's so many other people staying at this property.
Yep.
Room wise, they are all 100% completely newly renovated. They finished that up in summer of this year. Overall, the theming in the rooms, I think, fits perfectly with the overall resort, wouldn't you say, Hank?
Yes, definitely. We've had lengthy discussions about the room renovations and how they make resorts feel, so we won't belabor those points too much. But as far as the resort experience that you're getting out of the Pop, we love the decorations and the way that those rooms feel. It's great to come into a refreshing room like that. I think it feels cooler when you get back to your room and you've got like the hardwood floors and everything, the fresh sheets, or now that most resorts have done this anyway, put like the all white sheets. You don't have to come back to one of those stuffy comforters that's over the top. My big piece of feedback though, Connor, is that these rooms are tight. They are really small at the Pop.
They're definitely on the smaller side. The typical room is 260 square feet. Comparing that to something like a Port Orleans French Quarter is 314 square feet, and a Grand Floridian goes anywhere from 344 to 440 square feet.
Yeah, they're tight, man.
Yeah, so 260 average between 260 and 277 square feet here is tight. We had that. We could barely fit an air mattress in it. No cots at this resort.
No cots. But the beds are big. They're nice. Big fan of the beds there. Yeah. And the trundle bed's cool too. That's a new effect for. It's no longer super new since it's been around since they've been renovating these rooms. But it's worth talking about this trundle bed effect.
The Murphy bed, right?
Murphy bed. Why did I say trundle? Oh yeah.
Trundle's the one that you pull out from underneath.
Correct.
And the only reason I know that is because my family and I, my first few trips to Disney when I was 2-3 years old, we stayed at Dixie Landings, which is now called Port Orleans Riverside. And we stayed in an area called Alligator Bayou. And the reason we stayed there is because it had the trundle beds. And I freaking love those.
Yep.
So
I remember. I see those in my head now.
This Murphy bed pulls out from. It's not attached to the wall. It's kind of in a box, but when it's up, it is a dining room table. So there's a few chairs,
Right.
And then when you pull it down, it pretty much produces the same exact size bed as the one next to it in the room.
Right, which is kind of Disney saying like, hey, listen, we realize your room's pretty tiny, and if you want to spend some extra time in the room, we have an option for you, which is great. You know, I mean, they're accommodating the fact that the room is smaller. They are giving you an option, saying, I want to save a few bucks, and they're saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to help you out. I'm not going to say pay more. I'm going to give you a Murphy bed.
There you go. Hotel room seems to have plugs and USB outlets galore.
Oh yeah,
they're all over the place, which is always appreciated.
Great addition. That's definitely a new thing. That's great to have. That you've got that bedside ability for everyone in the room.
Yeah, I think a lot of little lighting touches too, which is always nice. And then the bathroom is great. There's plenty of space, both for storage and just accessibility. Those privacy doors are very nice. In the past, they've just been privacy curtains. So if you wanted to get ready in the bathroom vanity area while, your roommates, whatever, are sleeping, it used to be you just basically drew a curtain, which wasn't very effective. Now they actually have sliding doors. And then that shower, there's no more, shower curtain. It's a glass shower with a tub.
Right. If you've stayed at the room renovations at the Coronado Springs or any other room renovations on property recently, they've got those nice rolling glass doors, which really does add like a nice effect. Feels way more luxe than, like the Holiday Inn. I mean, it really does. When you upgrade from curtain to door, different hotel.
It did surprise me how much storage areas there were, either by the sink or...
Holy crap. Yeah, there's a lot.
Or by the...
lot going on in the bathroom. If it's compensating for some size in the bathroom space, you do not feel cramped in there at all. That's the thing. If you're listening and you're thinking about if you can take a family there and you're like, I think I can pass on the room part, but if the bathroom's cramped, I'm out. Bathroom is huge in comparison.
And then another aspect, because this is on the smaller side, Disney has all the furniture in there, I would say, is mid-century modern with pop art touches. So there's pop art all throughout the walls and things like that. The bed is kind of that mid-century modern wood finish, but it's raised up a few feet off the ground. So that's a perfect place to store your luggage, your suitcases, so that it's not in the way while you're, staying there.
Didn't think about that. That's a great point. There's a lot of room to hide stuff.
Yeah. Definitely.
They're definitely accommodating that. Another note about the bathroom too. So for my 2 stays, we were lucky because it's less than 10% of the rooms but probably less than that, have a king size bed on Disney properties. We had a king size bed when we stayed at the Pop back in July. My wife and I, and they do have showers specific to king size bedrooms, so they actually have the flat four, the 0-point entry type of shower there, and that's just a real nice touch at a resort like that, where they know they probably don't have a bathtub need for kids. It's probably just an adult or two staying in the room. So it's nice that they took that into mind when they were upgrading these rooms and not just tossing bathtubs in all of them.
So when you stayed in the king room, was there a table in the room anywhere?
Think through this. Yes, there was, but permanent fixture, no Murphy
Correct.
bed.
Yeah, right. It was just the king bed and a table in the corner.
Yep.
Gotcha. And then it probably had that fantastic TV though, too, right?
Oh yeah. Which is a little misleading. It says smart TV, not smart, or doesn't allow you to be smart with it.
It can hear you. It has feelings. It's a dumb TV.
Gorgeous TV, though.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Hey, as someone would tell you at Disney World, you don't need the TV.
Hey, also,
you definitely don't need a smart TV.
I will say this much. If you do come back from a long day at the parks, there's no better way to watch Stacy and the Disney must-dos than on these new TVs.
I love Stacy, but her days are extremely numbered. Late 2020.
Don't you say that.
Late 2019, Connor. That's when they've got Skyliner, Mickey's Runaway Railway.
She can do it. She can do it.
They better
She's
get
done
in
it
there quick.
before. They'll reshoot some scenes. She's a consummate professional. She's going to do it. The must-dos will return. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
We'll see in 2019.
God, man, that would suck if they take that away. Just a quick point on the rooms. We'll have all of these pictures and pictures from around the property on the show notes page, where we'll kind of do a little write-up of the review as well. You can go over to wdwopinion.com/episode 21. That is the number 21, episode 21. You'll be able to find all of those photos there, and we'll share them on social media as well. So be sure to follow us. So some pros and cons about this. Cons is the resort itself is big. Right, it's massive. It's going to take a while to get from certain points to other points. So that's definitely on the con side. Mm-hmm. And then also on the con side, it's small. So it's big in scale, but it's small when it comes to the rooms.
Right.
You have to take those into consideration.
Yeah, cons. And then obviously we talked about the bus as well.
Yeah.
Bus situation's not awesome.
It's not ideal, and then the proximity to the parks isn't ideal as well. And we only ate there for breakfast, but there's one time when we came back from the parks and I was like looking around trying to get something to eat, and I just wasn't intrigued by anything. It's very standard pizza, sandwiches kind of fare.
Right, no theme. You know, at least if you're at like one of the moderates, you can get like some Caribbean fare or some New Orleans flair or some Mexican, Central American flair. But here, you're getting Mickey waffles. You know,
I ended up that night going with the child snack box, which I highly recommend. In case anyone's
very
wondering.
good. You did not go for the tie-dye cheesecake, which is no longer a piece of cheesecake. It's like
it's a mutated form, a gelatinous mutated form of this. So the lack of dining is definitely a con there, and it can get a little rowdy at times. Just there's a lot of people, so it can get loud throughout the resort. That's something to take into consideration. Pros, the Disney touches. When you walk by a giant statue of Baloo and Mowgli and you have that Disney theming throughout the property, it is pretty awesome. And the Disney service, of course, still, exudes here at Pop Century.
Definitely.
You get the Disney benefits like the transportation, like the Magical Express, extra magic hours, and you can book those fast passes 60 days in advance. Those are all huge benefits, and at this price point, definitely worth it.
Absolutely.
And with the upgrades and coming, the Skyliners, there are definitely times where the Pop Century can feel like a moderate, but still remain at that value price, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, as we said last week, it will be extremely interesting and intriguing to get back to the Pop and check it out after the Skyliner's up and running.
We will definitely do that, and we'll definitely let you know how it goes. Just a couple tips that I typed out here. If you can, I think it is a benefit to bring a car. I think just with transportation alone, waiting in those lines can be devastating for the bus at times. If you hit the mark and you don't show up early enough, you could be adding an extra, 30, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour onto your day of just waiting in lines for that bus because of how many people are trying to use it. Coming back is just the same as well. There's a lot of people.
You start to open up the Uber app at that point.
But also with the lack of dining, you might get pretty bored pretty easily with the one food court. So having a car means you're open up to more options for dinner and things like that.
Right, and that's the thing that Connor, you kind of got me thinking here. You got to remember is when you're paying the extra dollar to rent a car or take an Uber or go get a meal at a different resort because you're not pleased with that one there and having to take an Uber or your car and move stuff around. At what point do you start to go, you know what? If I had paid $70 more a night, you know what? That's fine for my trip.
But then you can also be on the flip if it works out to where you can stay at a value and you can afford a car and still come under budget or come under what it would cost to stay at a moderate. You just have to take those things into consideration. Here, I'd say bring a car because I don't think they charged us for parking, by the way, even though that was a big hullabaloo. It's kind of like...
That's kind of floated away. They really
Yeah.
have kind of drifted off from that.
In the summer, this past summer, they came out and said, you're going to have to pay this price at a value, this price at a moderate, this price at a deluxe for overnight parking. People got very upset, even though you basically have to pay for parking at every other hotel in the world. And over the months, people have started to say, like, hey, I don't think they charged me. I don't think they did anything.
Very true.
So that's interesting. That is interesting.
No, I'm really scratching my head.
Because when you stay on property, you're able to go to the parks and park at the parks for free. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to pay that 25 bones. We liked staying in the 90s, in the 80s/90s section. But that's also because we had a car, and the parking lot there is in the middle of, it's right between like the lobby and the buses and then where we're staying. So there's a nice little cut through right there. It's kind of, you go the back way, you get to the buses easily, but you can also get to the pool. You can get to the 80s and 90s pool right there, and you can get to the lobby pretty quickly.
Yeah, that is a pretty damn good tip for our listeners out there. I guess we'll give it to them. It's kind of a secret area. If you look at a map, and you want to stay at the Pop. If you're listening to this podcast, you want to stay at the Pop, check out those rooms over there in the 80s, 90s area. You can cut right through the parking lot and get right to the buses. Some of the best rooms on property, and they're actually, I think, at a rate because they are kind of ring up like they're far away from the lobby. So you're getting at a better rate too.
A little more quiet over there as well on the back
yes.
side, which is always nice. I always do chuckle when I go online and I look at, hey, you could pay this much for a preferred pool view room at the Pop Century, or this much for a standard view. Listen, this is something where I personally don't think you should fork over the extra money for. Reason being, there's a hallway right outside your room, so it's not like you have a balcony that you can go out and stare at the pool on. People are going to be walking back and forth. You can't open the blinds really because people are walking back and forth from your room as
Just
well.
silly.
I think this is a place where don't necessarily go for that view.
Yeah.
Just kind of stick with the standard view and you'll be fine.
Yep.
So I think we have to give this the WDW Opinion seal of approval. Pop Century.
Hey, very much so. Yeah, we are now Pop fans.
We are Pop fans. Any other final thoughts there, Hank?
I very much enjoyed my time at the Pop these past 2 trips. I know my next one will probably not be at the Pop, but I know if there's one thing that I'm really going to miss, it is definitely going to be those sweet room renovations. I'm a spoiled boy now going to Disney property, and I know I'm going to miss those.
Spoiled little boy. It's definitely a thing where when there's no availability across property and the only place you can stay at is Pop, for me, it's going to be, oh, cool, the Pop has availability. Where in the past, it might have been, geez, I got to stay at the Pop.
Yeah.
But it has a bright future, as we have discussed as well. That's going to do it for us, though, this week. As always, thank you so very much for listening to the show. Be sure to rate and review us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and share the show with someone you think might enjoy it. If you like what you heard today, then you've been listening to the WDW Opinion Podcast. If, by chance, you didn't like what you heard, then you've been listening to Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. For Hank, I'm Connor. We'll see you real soon.